In this section, we'll talk about SLB hands-on demo. Okay, so to start this demo, we first go to Alibaba Cloud homepage, and then we enter the console by clicking the button here. And then we'll be guided to the Alibaba Cloud Management Console. We first check the ECS we have, because before we want to use SLB, we need to have ECS set up first. So in here, you'll see that in my management console, I have 2 ECS in Singapore region, and the 2, I already have them running Ubuntu and LAMP environment. And then if you copy the internet IP address of these 2 ECS and paste it in Chrome incognito window, then you'll see the first ECS is hosting a web page with a kitty, and the second one is hosting a web page with a puppy. So you can tell the difference. The first one is a cat, the second one is a dog. So that's the different page hosted on the 2 ECS. I also named the first one cat, the second one dog. So now we have 2 ECS both hosting web pages, but first one is with a cat picture and the second one with a dog picture. So now we have the backend ECS ready in the Singapore region. So now the next step will be going to the SLB management console and start purchasing our SLB. So we just press the button and go to the SLB management console. So we're in Singapore region, but we not yet have any SLB. So we have to go to here to purchase SLB. So click it and you'll be guided to the SLB purchase console. So you'll see this is the SLB purchase console. It's kind of more simple than the ECS purchase console, but still similar logic. So you start with choosing the region. Since we have ECS in Singapore region, so we have to pick the SLB in Singapore region as well. And then in default, you will have the SLB in multi-zone deployment. Multi-zone deployment means that you will have your primary SLB in one zone and the backup SLB in another zone, which means like here, in default, you will have your primary SLB in zone A and backup SLB in zone B. And of course, you can change it to like zone C and zone B, or you go back to default, zone A and zone B. It's okay. And you can give it a name for this SLB instance. If not, then SLB instance will have a default name granted by Alibaba Cloud. And then you can choose whether to have this SLB in internet or in intranet. And in our case, we have to have this SLB managing 2 internet ECS, so we have to have it in internet. And then you can choose the spec of the SLB. So you can choose from small to standard to high-end SLB, or you can choose the default one, which is the shared performance instance. This one is actually suitable for most use cases. And then the bandwidth is counted by traffic, and then you set the quantity of the SLB you are purchasing, which is 1 in our case. And then finally, we recap our selection. If this is okay for you, then press buy now to purchase this SLB. Okay, again, confirm order, and if it is okay, we check this box and activate the SLB. So now we have our SLB ready. Let's go back to the console. So just refresh it, and then you'll see the SLB is running. So how to configure this SLB? Well, it's quite simple. So first, you click the name of this SLB, you enter its management console, and then you go to backend servers. Because we not yet register our 2 ECS to this SLB, so currently you'll see its backend server, it has nothing in the backend server group. So you have to go to the servers not added, select the 2 ECS, and then add them in batch. Then here's a pop-up asking you, do you want to add weight to the 2 ECS instance? And in here, because our 2 ECS, the cat ECS and the dog ECS, they have the same spec, so you can leave the 2 with the same weight. But in other cases, like if you have the cat ECS being the more powerful one, and the dog ECS is like a backup one with a lower spec, then you can make the cat ECS have 100 weight, and the dog maybe have 50. But in our case, because we want to do a fair demo, So we want to have the two with the same weight. Okay, so now you'll see in the backend server group of this SLB, it has the two ECS that we just added. And then if we want to have the SLB start working, we not only need to have the SLB instance, the backend servers, and also we need to have the listener ready. So we go to the listener. We start adding a listener by pressing this button. So in the beginning, the first step, you will have to choose the protocol that this listener is listening to. So in our case, because we have the two ECS showing an HTML website, so we need to set HTTP and listen to port 80. And for the scheduling algorithm, we choose the default, which is the weighted round robin. And then it's the health check page. So in here, you can configure the health check, whether you want to enable or disable it. And then you can set some parameters related to health check. And then here's the status code that you want to do the health check. And in default, I do recommend you just leave the first one. The remaining one, you can leave them unchecked. And then you press confirm to set up this listener. So now we have the listener ready. So our SLB is now ready to work. Our SLB, if you go to its detail, you'll see this SLB. Now it has the listener ready, and it have the backend servers ready. The first backend server, cat, is listening to port 80, and the second dog is listening to port 80 as well. And then let's go to the public IP of this SLB to see does it work as expected. So let's open an incognito window again, and we enter the IP of the SLB. So then you'll see, oh, it's working. The request, user request coming to the SLB is now forwarded to the dog ECS in the backend. And then if we refresh the page, you'll see then the next request goes to the cat ECS. Because we have the two ECS, their weight set to 100 and 100, so it's 50-50 chance that your request will be going to the cat or the dog ECS. So keep refreshing and you'll see it does work as we expect. And then let's try another feature in SLB, which is called session stickness. So let's close this window and go to the SLB and go to the listener we just set. We configure this listener and open this advanced options. And then you will see here's a feature called session persistence. So if you open it, turn it on, and then here's a parameter you have to set, which determines that after you activate the session persistence, your request will be forwarded to the same ECS for how long. So you have to set this number carefully. And in this demo, we set it 600, which means 10 minutes for session persistence. And then the remaining ones, you don't need to change them. Just press next, confirm, and then everything's okay. So now you set the session persistence for 10 minutes, and then let's see how this will change the SLB's behavior. So we go back to the public IP address of the SLB, and we open again an incognito window, and we enter the address. And then you will see the SLB guides us to the dog ECS. And since we have the session persistence on, so after you do the refresh, you'll find that you always be guided to the same ECS. This is because the session persistence is on, and in this 10 minutes, you will always have your request being guided to the same ECS, which is the dog ECS. And then after 10 minutes, when the session persistence expires, and then you will start having the chance to be guided to the cat ECS. So that's so much for the SLB demo.